Yo, yo, yo! Welcome back to the MMA Short Show. As always, your boy, Steven Moustaris. And guys, say what you will about the whole fights, all the fights at the UFC Mexico City card this past weekend, the outcomes, whatever you guys might think. The one big takeaway that I had is I just miss how much fun it is when the UFC actually travels and how important it is for these fighters. And it just blows my mind because this whole thing, watching all these fighters from Mexico fighting in their hometown and everything, it had me really thinking damn, the UFC is gonna drop the ball again. They got Aaliyah Tapura right now, the biggest star that they can possibly have in Europe. I mean, if you guys are paying attention to the guy right now, he's on every talk show. He's calling out every fighter in the world: Islam, Conor, Max. It don't matter who it is. He's calling everybody out. This man is doing all the press in Europe. This man is doing everything in Spain. This man literally just did the honorary kickoff for the Real Madrid football game. This dude is a global star right now, and the UFC needs to capitalize on this. But I think they're going to drop the ball. They've been forcing this Apex Arena down our throat for how long now? The thing that makes that the most sad, not just for us fans that can't go because they don't let them go, it's the fighters, man. They don't even let the fighters get tickets for their own family. I'm sure if you're the main event for the Apex card, sure, your wife and kids can come, I bet. But anything else, you're on the prelims, you're on the early prelims, you're on the, the early, main card. Yeah, no, we're just going to save those tickets for us UFC brass and, whoever's hot that month on social media. It's ridiculous. And what makes me so upset about this is that as long as I've been following MMA and the UFC more in general, the UFC has done such a good job growing this sport, has done such a good job globalizing this sport. They say it all the time. They want to make this sport so big, worldwide, universal. They always want to do it. They want to spread it. They want to make sure that these UFC fitness centers are in Vegas and, in Mexico and Brazil. They talk about how much they want to globalize and expand. Yet when they had 3 African kings, they didn't even make an attempt to go to Africa. But when COVID breaks out and, whatever, they make everything happen. They drop the ball within weeks or drop everything that they have within weeks just to make Fight Island all the way over in whatever, Saudi Arabia or Dubai or wherever, and it just blows my mind that you guys can do that within a week or whatever just to keep the show rolling. But now that the world's open back up, now that you guys have superstars growing again, now that you want to really expand this sport and you're always talking about it, oh, no, we're going to keep them at the Apex Arena that only has 200 people, and the fighters can't even get tickets. It's just, it's just us UFC brass and, social media stars at that rate who are going to get us clicks on whatever, on Snapchat and TikTok and all these things. What are we doing, man? The funnest thing about this sport, the greatest thing about this sport, if you've never experienced a live event, you need to go to a live event. Kansas City last year got to go see Max Holloway, Arnold Allen. It wasn't even a pay-per-view fight. This thing was just an ESPN card, and that place was popping. Last night, ESPN card, you saw just all the fans fighting. You saw all the fans going nuts when their Mexican hopefuls come out. Just the way that we die for our people. I miss when we used to go to Brazil, and they used to chant all their crazy, I don't know, all the Portuguese and stuff, but they were chanting, you will die and all these things. I miss that stuff, man. And the thing that makes it worse for the UFC, looks worse, the UFC doesn't even go to Hawaii. And look at Bellator. They went to Hawaii, I don't know, 10 times. Oh my gosh. They literally made cards in Hawaii, I don't know how many times. And they might have been smaller arenas. But whatever, the UFC, you could just sacrifice one card. You do it for Apex cards. Why wouldn't you do it for a venue that maybe holds 12,000 people? Maybe it doesn't hold the 22 or whatever you want, but maybe holds 10,000, 12,000 people. That UFC Hawaii card, the name alone, the views it'll get alone, just the love that it would do for the actual MMA, scene in Hawaii would be well worth, just taking it there and having a smaller card, I guess. But you could still stack it to the gills. PFL, they did one of the greatest cards last year in MMA and all general of last year. If we want to talk about the actual crowd, PFL's France card last year was one of the craziest cards I've ever seen. The atmosphere, everything was amazing. And yet the UFC can't even, make a card to Spain. They finally got their European star in Aaliyah Tapura, who finally, maybe not as big as Conor McGregor, but if we're talking as soon as he got the championship and everything, he's right there right now. This man, he clearly needs to go on and do some things like Conor already did, and that's just name in stone. I'm just saying, Aaliyah Tapura, this is your chance. This is your superstar chance to get a card in Spain. And what makes it even easier to make that decision easier to go to Spain is we're not even sure who he's going to fight. You guys can throw Brian Ortega in there. You could throw Evlov in there. If Max Holloway somehow beats Justin Gaethje or somehow loses quick and doesn't take damage, you could do that too. It doesn't matter who you throw in there at that rate, as long as it's not Josh Emmett or something. or you could maybe even throw Volk, even though I don't want to see Volk. I'm just saying we're not even sure on the who's gonna be the challenger, and that makes it even better. Okay, we're not sure who it is, so we're gonna send it to Spain and just throw one of them in there, and it's gonna sell because Tapira's fighting in Spain. It doesn't matter who it is, but I bet you the UFC, they mess around. They have some fight in Texas. They have some fight in Florida somewhere. Who knows where they have it? They'll do it somewhere stupid because, oh, nobody else could fight. We threw Sean O'Malley in there or somebody, or Brian Ortega does get the fight in California or something. And Ilya Tapira, they're going to think he's going to walk right through that guy. And Ilya Tapira is going to somehow lose. And that's just how it is because the UFC is going to mess around. And you had the UFC Africa card in your hand. Like, I don't think if you really believe in this expanding and making the sport bigger universally and globally, you're going to make sure that you're going to sacrifice whatever it is. If it has to be a stadium show, if it has to be an arena show, if it has to be a little tinier of a show, just when it talks to who can be in there, a UFC Africa card would have been the biggest card ever. What it would do for the MMA scene in Africa would be insane. To do it in Spain or Georgia, especially because you have Merab Dvalishvili now too, that is a Georgian brother of Ilya Tapira, you could easily do that in Spain or Georgia. They're pretty close. You could do one of them. Like, why wouldn't you right now? Why wouldn't you do it? It just blows my mind, man. I just miss the Brazil cards. I miss the France cards. I miss everything that we do. We just did a French card last year, and it was terrible. So, like, I don't know, man. It's just starting to get a little annoying because the UFC, they could be even bigger if they just had the right, mindset. But, we're sitting here focused on UFC 300, and we're not even aware that UFC 301 is about to be in Brazil, and they're going to give us absolutely nothing. They forced Alex Tapira. Oh my gosh, you can see how much I'm talking about Ilya Tapira. Alex Pereira and good old Jamal Hill. They forced Jamal Hill after a huge injury just to go right back in there just to fight at UFC 300 when they could have been like, all right, UFC 300 is going to sell regardless. Why don't we give Alex Pereira? Why don't we give him to the Brazil people in UFC 301 the very next month, like 3 weeks later or whatever? That would have been ginormous, but no, we forced it on UFC 300. Oh, we could save Max Holloway just in case, Ilya Tapira is being pushed. Maybe he beats Volk. We should save Max. Nah. We got to make sure UFC 300 is good. Let's throw him up against Justin Gaethje, a whole division up, and for a baddest motherfucker belt. Like, that doesn't even matter for either of these guys. Like, man, it just sucks sometimes to see how, like, short-sighted the UFC can be. But at the end of the day, I'm going to watch every show. I'm just pointing things out, I guess. I'm not going to be a hater. I'm going to watch them. But still, man, I just see how much work they put in to get these Apex cards. But why aren't we doing this for, a Spain card or the African card that we could have had? So, as always, your boy, Steven Moustaris. Y'all let me know. Like, who would you guys want to see Tapira fight for real? Because, at this rate, I don't think Evlad deserves it. Ortega did have an impressive win over Yair, but, like, let's be real. Brian Ortega hasn't fought at all. Like, Max Holloway is my guy. That would be my vote, but he's fighting Justin Gaethje. Like, what do you do? Like, Evlad, in my opinion, he barely beat Arnold Allen. I thought Arnold Allen kind of won round 3 and could have arguably won the last half of the round 2. So, it was a toss-up, to be honest. It was way closer of a fight, and if you guys need to go back and rewatch it, watch it. But just for that moment alone, there's no clear-cut, challenge right now. Just throw one of them in there and make it at Spain, and it's going to happen. So you guys let me know what y'all think. Do you think the UFC is going to drop the ball, or do you guys actually like Apex cards? Like, for real, this shit is annoying. It's annoying. But as always, your boy, Steven Moustaris. Let's go, baby.